Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve. Welcome to Born to Achieve podcast, the show that inspires and motivates you to unlock your full potential and achieve your goals. With your host, Warren Andrew Pinder. Let's get started on this week's episode of Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve.
I am born to achieve, and so are you. Today we are here with a dynamic episode of the Born to Achieve podcast. With me is co-host Mr. Delano L.D. Archer and Dr. Cheyenne Williams, here to bring to you today an exciting, very informative and provocative topic that we'll be speaking on today is abuse, being a victim of abuse, from a personal perspective, relationship, family, and, the vicious cycle of abuse. So, Ellie, you go.
Michael. Okay, so today we'd like to attack abuse. Abuse is a very broad topic. We tend to want to only think of it as relationship or child abuse, but there are a lot of different types of abuses. But first, Andrew, let's give a little definition of abuse for our audience.
According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, we'll be speaking today the language that condemns or vilifies, usually unjustly, intemperately, and angrily, that speaks to verbal abuse, a term of abuse. Then we have physical maltreatment that deals with child abuse and sexual abuse.
Okay, so generally, they have 5 types of abuse, and these are it's not complete, but generally you have physical abuse, you have emotional abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, and even financial abuse. Now, Dr. Williams is going to steer this conversation for us today, but she's the expert here. And she will steer the conversation towards how our young men can understand the detriment of abuse in relationships, and not all relationships. Family, with your better half, with your children, with your friends. There's always a detriment to abuse, and sometimes it's not immediate. Sometimes it takes years for it to fester. But a pet peeve of mine is child abuse, and before she comes on, I'll just like for the audience to hear some of the effects that child abuse can cause. Okay, so child abuse can create physical health problems. Well, that's due to physical beating. It can also cause mental health problems. It can cause a child to go into trauma, which sometimes stays with them for life. They're haunted with that for the rest of their lives. It can also stagnate brain development. It can also cause social difficulties, and it can also cause behavioral issues. And so child abuse creates a facet of all types of problems that child will have to deal with, sometimes for the rest of their lives. And sometimes, most of the time, we don't realize what we're doing when we abuse children. So, on that note, I will turn over the stage to Dr. Williams. So, Dr. Williams, you go.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I want to comment on the child abuse aspect of what you were talking about. Let's think about society today. Let's look at how our children are acting. Let's look at the reports that we're getting about our young adult or teenage children. And from what you read that children go through during the stage of being abused, what do you think has happened with most of our children in society? They have been abused because they are now showing the effects of being a child that has been through some type of abuse.
Yeah.
So when we have our children cannot communicate properly, mentally they are not sound, they're getting into mischief, they experience extensive anxiety. These are children that are traumatized or were traumatized, and they went through, 2 to 1, they went through some type of abuse. So that right there tells us that we have to look at the young people right here in our community that are getting themselves into problems, that are not acting right, and try to figure out the background of what has happened or what is happening with these children. Most of these children, some of these children would have grown up in a home that is not, what do we call a healthy home?
Dysfunctional.
Right, very much. So when you have a child growing up and watching abuse, let's say, whether it be the mother and father, mother and boyfriend, daddy and girlfriend, whoever it is, even siblings amongst themselves, they fight, they abuse one another. So if we have a child that is growing up in this type of environment, at the end of the day, what do we expect? The perfect child? No. So child abuse is very, very evident in our country, and this is something that we should address. According to what you read from the dictionary and the effects that happens due to child abuse. So now you said let's discuss what relationship abuse. Relationship.
Yeah, that interested.
Okay, so as it relates to relationship abuse, now we know that a lot of women suffer in silence. That is what many of them are known for here in this country today. And it is very sad. A lot of us suffer in silence because, one, of fear. Fear keeps a lot of people in bondage. A lot of women, I should say, because they fear that they are not able to make it financially on their own. They fear that they cannot provide for their children. They fear that things may go wrong and they would have no one to look to. So they stay in the home, they stay in the relationship and endure abuse. It has to come to a point whereas something so drastic would have happened that eventually they would leave. Some women, 10, 15, 20 years, they stay and endure what it is that they are going through out of fear of not knowing what tomorrow will hold. And then we have a lot of women, they stay in the relationship because of the children. They stay and say they will stay until the children grow up or they get a little bigger and then they can move on and so on and so forth. But in the meantime, during this relationship and this abuse, the children are being abused mentally, if not physically also. So there is where our next problem comes in as it relates to child abuse.
So that's the parent or spouse shouting unnecessarily at the child because they frustrated at what they're going through.
Yes. And then, some parents, they actually take it out on the children. Most likely, if the mother is trying to protect the child staying in the marriage, then the daddy would be the aggressor. And then it doesn't limit him to just being abusive to the wife. He then goes on to the children because 9 out of 10 times, children would side with their mom. They would try and defend their mother from a man, attacking or mistreating their mother.
So stick a pin right there. I want you to continue. But that they're important because how we know the men are not being abused. But you go there, I want you the same thought, right? I want you to come back and say, so we got a balance in this.
Okay.
We got a balance in this because not all women play fair.
Right? I agree.
So let's see what you say, Ali.
I was going to say something, but you're perfectly correct. Some men, because there's a trend now, and it's always been quiet, because a man would never want to admit that a woman is beating him. Right? You'll never hear that story. Okay? But it happens. And there's a growing trend of that.
But mentally it happens all the time. You know good.
Yes.
You understand? Go. But men is play into it. But we can go. I can let Dr. Williams address that. I just wanted to stick a pin there.
Okay, so.
But finish what you say.
The reason I would side with to say that the man would be causing the abuse is because I said that the woman would stay in it and take the abuse because of the children. That's the point I was on.
Right.
So if she is the abuser, it doesn't even matter. It wouldn't matter to her because she would be the one placing fear, I guess, in the man and in the children. So we do have a small amount of cases where men are the ones being abused. But in this day and time where it's more men being the abuser, I can speak to that because working with a lot of women that call in being abused, being threatened, running for their lives, being put out the house 12 o'clock in the night with their children because the boyfriend is tired of them. All of these things I see. And
Thank you for joining today's podcast. We'll be right back.
Achieve Man, written by Warren Andrew Pinder and Dominique Bradford. This book passionately focuses on the challenges women have been made to go through and how to overcome them. In some cultures, being a woman disadvantages the girl child. This book carefully exposes the hurdles you might face. This masterpiece is the ultimate self-help guide for women. It reveals your true purpose and identity. Get your copy today. Available from Amazon.
We now return to today's podcast.
I can speak to. So women stay in these relationships because of fear, which is very toxic. And it could be 5 years, 10 years down the road. They would think that things would change. But of course, it does not change because a man who does not want to change will not change. He will change when he wants to change. And if you're still in the position, whereas you're still doing what you need to do, he still have access to you. For what reason does he have to change? So that goes for relationship abuse, marital abuse. We have a lot of marriages right now, whereas we're living in one house, but we're living in separate areas of the house and this is how abuse comes in again. Because, of course, 2 o'clock in the night, you're a man. I'm picking on the men again. And, a woman is next door. A woman is next door in another room. You feeling yourself. You go, and she's not into you. You attack her. She fights you off, and that's abuse. So these are some of the situations that happens in the homes. We know it, but we turn a blind eye to it.
Kind of abuse, that's marital, what?
And I agree with that. I agree with that. that definitely is that.
That's a court case.
I understand, and I cannot wait till we reach to that point that it can be, heard in the court of law. But women take a lot of abuse and they sit back and they tolerate it for some time until they realize that it's not going to get any better. And then they decide to leave. And that is when the real challenges come about. So that is why I said that a lot of them stay in a relationship because of fear.
So let me ask a question, Dr. Williams. And this is a left field question. And it's rhetorical, but I'm going to try and phrase it differently.
Let's go.
So when it comes to intervention into someone's personal affairs with abuse, and I know, the law and people who help try to wait for them to come, because a lot of times people come for help, and the minute you want to press charges, they drop them and say, no, don't bother with that no more. And they go right back to the nest they was in. I understand that. But from an innovative position, and I use that word specifically, innovative, because what we have right now, I don't think works very well. What can we do as a society, as law, as a community, to try and mitigate this trend of abuse? And I know that's a difficult question because a lot of people in society go on through it, so they don't even know what to do. Okay?
That's true.
I totally agree.
So, but, what is the corrective path to this? Because we've been failing at this for a long time, and we're still failing at it. I mean, how do we make corrections to this? It seems as if we're not developing, we're not maturing towards a better end.
Well, I think I don't know how much the government can do. I really don't know how much society can do, and the community, I don't know what it can do. I see it as a problem that has to be fixed with the individuals, because every abuse situation, I think, is different. Men have different issues, women have different issues, and from personal experience, until one is willing to admit to himself or herself that they have an issue, there is a problem that needs to be addressed, we will continue to see what we are seeing. There is nothing that can force us into changing a person's mind or changing the person's behavior unless they do something that is in the way of committing a crime, and then they are locked up and charged or sent to prison. So other than that, it takes counseling the individuals. And when most men hear the word counseling, like my ex-husband told me, I ain't crazy, I ain't going to nobody, nobody need to talk to me, you crazy, you go. So
we know I get the point.
So the problem will always exist. So there's nothing that anyone can do until the individuals in the situation come together and try to come up with a resolution for the situation. That's how I see it.
Recognizing that they need help. They need help. I was talking to someone on the weekend, right? And he told me that he had to been admitted, right, for treatment like 10 times, right? And he said he realized that his problem was he just liked to go up there because they used to treat him good. Right? He said, man, everyone up there know him. Right? But he said he liked that. So he used to go do whatever just to go up there.
Wow.
Until he gets himself one day, and I can't even say he needed some medicine or something. So he needed to go get some medicine, and he gone to somebody asked a doctor for the medicine, right? And the doctor tell him, hold on, where you learn this? Right? He said, a package. So they called the ambulance for you to take him up there. And that's when he realized to stop playing with it.
Yeah.
He said, when the doctor tell him, nobody, stop playing around that.
But he was going up there to get away.
He did vacation. He said, man, he didn't like it.
Serious.
You know?
So I guess it comes right back to, we talked about this before, about people getting along with one another. That is, mankind has not done justice to that. Some people do, but there's a majority of people in this world that has nothing to do with behaving. It's the world. And we are still evolving and maturing, trying to get along with one another. There's a big pitfall there, and I think that's the crux. I could be wrong, Dr. Williams, but I think that's the crux of the matter, because that's where all of these things come out, like abuse and
Yeah, I agree. It goes right back into the individual. Their maturity level, their exposure to what it is they need to know, how to act, behave in a relationship, the things that they should do, the things that they should not do. As a man in a relationship, what did you see growing up? Who taught you how to be a man? What is your perception of a man? What is your perception of a husband? What is your perception of a father? Do you just buy the grocery or help with the bills? Do you go to the games? Do you support the honor roll services? Do you help with homework? The simple things makes the big difference. And that's what I always say. So it goes back to the individuals. And then when you are told to, or you are counseled to do better and shown a different way, are you willing to accept it? Are you willing to try and correct the behaviors you've been practicing for so long? Are you open to change? Change is inevitable. But some men are very stubborn and set in their own ways. I am the man, this is how I do it, and this is how it's going to be done.
But I hear about you and Ellie, right? And that word fear.
Yes.
The word fear just keep, as I listen to this, which I'm happy we're having this dialogue, this conversation, because this dialogue, conversation is not had. And that could be one of the problems, because every time someone talking about who in an abusive relationship, they hiding it, or they talking bad with someone, but they speed up, that one is beat that one, or this one is beat that one. It's gossip. It ain't constructed the way we are presenting it today. Right? But I hear fear in that, number one, if you're in an abusive relationship, you're scared to go and ask for help, right? And then for a child, he's afraid to go tell anyone, because he know that cycle can continue. Mm-hmm. He know that if he go tell anyone, and that whoever the abuse is, whether a mother or a father, and he got to go home and face that person, more than likely it only continues, right? The cycle continues. The cycle continues. So I think fear play a serious role in this,
It really, like I said, it really does. And I could speak from personal experience, staying in a mentally, emotionally, physically draining, toxic marriage for so much years. I stayed because of the fear of not knowing if I decide to leave and I already have these children, what will happen? The fear of, am I going to be able to carry the load by myself? So I convinced myself that, okay, give him a chance. He's going to change. He apologized today, so he's going to change. Another month or two, okay, he's going to change. And the thing about it is, what we women do, we paint the perfect picture that everything is fine in the home. Everything is good in the home. Everybody look at the couple and the marriage as if, oh my gosh, I want to be just like them. When I got put in for divorce and people heard that I put in for divorce, everybody was shocked. Like, what? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what? And I was like, yeah. So when I explained, I was like, I would have never thought. I said, no, some of them still believe. So I had a few videos captured on camera, and it was like left with that mouth drop to the ground, because they couldn't believe this was the man carrying on with this, with his wife and his children. So when I say suffer in silence, we women do that, and I can speak from personal experiences. So we get afraid to leave because we don't know what tomorrow holds. But it would come a point whereas the red flags, we can't take them anymore, and we just say, you know what, I give up, I can't do it. My breaking point was the children were getting older and they were not blindsided anymore. They knew what was going on, they felt what was going on, and I know at that point enough was enough. Okay, and so I said to myself, after losing a child to cancer, and for a man to tell you, when you're crying, get over it, he's dead, life goes on. I'm like, what? So that was my breaking point. I know mentally I was gone. I know mentally I was not there anymore. Physically I was there, but mentally I had run a marathon and a half. I was out of there, but I was still there, doing the things that a wife would do, doing everything that I should do with the children, and everything I continued to do. But mentally I was gone, and that was on top of all the other things that he carried on with and was doing. So I just got tired at the end of the day, and everything just was crazy. I committed myself to evolving, to elevating myself after I lost my son, and I continued to grow, and he had a problem with that.
Now for a commercial break.
Achieve Men, written by Warren Andrew Pinder. In this book, you will learn the 7 steps to achieving your dreams and goals. Given the vision to share how the acronym of the word achieve can be used systematically in your day-to-day life. Each of us is given a unique gift from God. Get your copy today. Available in print, ebook, and audiobook from Amazon.
We now return to today's podcast.
He had a problem with me elevating. He had a problem with everything I did. So I just continued to soar throughout the toxicity, throughout the fights, throughout the disappointments, everything. I finished UB and he didn't even attend the graduation.
Shame on him.
So, I'm like, you really have a problem. But I still never went out there and said anything to anybody. I just dealt with it. I dealt with it until I couldn't deal with it no more. And then, like I said before, he said to me, I'll take you serious when I see divorce papers. So he took me serious after he saw divorce papers. But at that point, it was done. I had made up my mind. It was done with. I couldn't take it no more. And the thing about it is, these men, they think they own you like a piece of property. So that is another way of manipulation and abuse. Don't go here. Don't do this. Eat that. Y'all eating this today. Y'all can't go this way. Okay, go by yourself. I'm not going. We throughout the years, 20 years of marriage, 5 children. The man never been on a family vacation with us. He always say, y'all go out, stay and keep the house. So, this is what we were dealing with in silence. But, at the end of the day, I just glad I got out of it because this was a man too. I begged to have a relationship with his children with. He refused to have a relationship. He's always too busy doing this or feel like because he paid a bill, help with the bills, and because he buys grocery and helps with whatever they need, he's the man.
He divorced the children
He
too.
divorced them, definitely. When I divorced him, he divorced the children. He gives when he feels like, he does when he feels like. But guess what? Thank God I made myself a strong black woman. I, at the end of the day, came out and I did what I had to do, regardless of who did not help. Him being the father, I did not depend on him in the marriage. So out the marriage, it was a little more strenuous, but I was already accustomed to dropping them to school, going doing the pickup, dropping the band practice, picking up from college club, doing all these things. I got myself used to it, so it really wasn't that much of a difference. So I was able to stand tall and do what I have to do.
You survived.
I survived. I'm here today,
Really?
and I am standing. Yes.
Yeah. Ellie.
Yeah.
Now we've heard this before.
Yeah.
I can go a little deep, right? I've actually heard women say, I prefer for someone to physically beat me than go through the mental abuse I go through with a man or with my husband or somebody. Mm-hmm. But you help me that one, LD.
I get let on. So.
You know what I mean?
I personally agree because I remember 2 times.
But and when you say you agree, right? Because some people may be going through this. Mm-hmm. When you say you agree, you agree to a man physically beating you.
When I say that, it's not for him to physically beat me, but I say that to say how deep and how hurtful mental abuse is. So it's more of a comparison to it, not to say I want you to actually beat me, but I prefer that because this mental stress, it's really killing me. It's really going beyond what I really can take. And I can say that, like I said, because 2 times I went to jump out of a moving vehicle with this man because of what he was running on and how he was carrying on with me. And mentally, it was like, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. So I actually opened the door and he pulled up, where you going? What you doing? So I'm like, I cannot take this. You're mentally killing me. So at that point, you would feel like, if he just slapped me, then it would be a slap and that's it. But you running on and you have my frustration going and going and going. It's draining. And that is why you have a lot of women with mental health issues.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that because I don't know if we are aware of the level of mental illness in this society. And it's hidden, but it's really there. And like one of the psychiatrists who used to run Sandlands years ago was on a talk show. And he said, if we had to evaluate every Bahamian for their mental stability, say we wouldn't have enough hospitals to put them in.
Agreed.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
And that struck me. And that was about 20 years ago I heard that.
Wow.
Agreed.
So you can imagine the combined stress and
Yes.
all the different things happen in society, the demand for this, the demand for that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the mental illness level in this society is way beyond what we understand. You see, we only think someone is mentally ill when they are admitted
Yeah.
to silence.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got a lot of mentally ill people working with
Wow.
you right now.
On the job.
Right on your job.
On the job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's facts.
See, but why this conversation really, like I say, it's hidden. It's been hidden for so long.
Well, it's hidden because, again, like I said, there's a lot of factors. But, again, our pride and egos are bigger than our head. We
Right.
don't like to face truth.
Right.
Yeah.
We hide from the truth.
Yes.
Okay? And like I said,
Yeah.
the first thing you got to do is identify your problem.
That's right. That's right.
Then you got to own it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
make some effort to correct it. But
Definitely.
if you keep hiding, the problem ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere.
No.
Huh? That's like you plant a seed, and guess what's going to happen to that tree? It can grow.
It can grow. There's a cycle. You
One
say
day-
the same cycle. You see abuse in your house growing up, and you
Yes.
think it's okay to bring it into your own,
Right.
and it'll never end. It'll never end.
Then you plant those seeds in your children, and then they
Yes.
plant those
In
seeds
their
in their
children.
families
Exactly.
and their children, and then that's a vicious cycle that doesn't end.
We advocating to break that.
Right, and I don't know where it started, but I call it the slavery default.
Yes.
It's the slavery default because that's how the masters used to get the slave to do what they want. They used to beat them,
That's true.
whip them in front of everybody,
Control.
and rape the wives and the women to keep them under control.
So you think that started back way there? That some of that still
Well,
going on?
well,
we still in bondage.
I agree.
We put ourselves in that. We
Yeah.
don't want to take ourselves into that because we still doing it.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I have seen lately a lot of men, I shouldn't say a lot of men, but some men now have taken on this abuse tactic. They're cursing at the children, right?
Yeah.
They are abusing them in public, right? Making them cry. A child supposed to go to his daddy for comfort,
Yeah.
Even her daddy
Yeah.
for comfort
Yeah.
as well.
okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
to be abused. If you can't
Yes.
handle taking the child down the road to the gas station, well, leave the child home. If you're gonna abuse them out in public,
Man, but remember, look here. When let's see, you remember anyone getting beat? Any parent come to school and beating a child, or like he's saying it's like I can discipline this child. He really think I come up to your school.
I remember once.
I remember that. But was that good or bad? When we talking about this
See,
now,
now hold on.
was that good or bad?
Now, this is a good point.
This-
Now, when we were growing up, we were submissive to our
Right.
parents' boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we took beating a different way. It could have been corrective in some cases. You understand me?
Right.
Because we were fearful of that.
Yeah.
These kids ain't fearful of you.
All right.
And then a lot of
When you beat them, all you causing them to do is rebel.
yes.
Yeah, I got you. You got.
They intelligent. They on the internet. They have they might not be wise, but they got more information there
They
than
can
you.
call the police for you.
Exactly.
they can call the police for
So
you.
if you think beating them, correcting them, not only
Yeah.
satisfying you, your ego.
Yeah.
A lot of parents,
Yeah,
fathers
right.
in particular, they sow animosity and they want to reap respect. You can't do that. I know personally, I've seen a father curse his daughter out, tell her all about her inside, underneath, this thing and the next, in the road, in front of people, uncalled for. And I'm like, how could you do that? How? No matter what, how could you do that? So if we at the point where this is the way a dad is treating his daughter, how does he expect any young man to look at or treat his daughter?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. And then too, going right back to fear, the daughter can be afraid of letting any man really a good man who want to come to life and remain a good. She can be afraid.
You destroy her trust.
Her trust in the man.
Trust
yes.
in man.
Exactly.
And she ain't never trust a man no more after that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You understand? Because her daddy did that.
Her father
caused that. That's right.
Her father. And guess what? She grew up with him being abusive and being toxic to her mother. So at the end of the day, she see this all her life growing up.
Yeah.
How do you expect her to respond to you? She suffers from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So when she sees him, she gets anxious. She gets in defense mode. She don't know whether it's time to be nice or time to gear up to fight. Or this is the mode she gets into when she sees this man. This is the fear that he has instilled in her. Wow. And this is her father. Wow.
Well, boy, like I said, this can be a good one. And I think an important one.
Yes.
Very important that, now, some people out there, Dr. Williams, may want to talk to you. They will talk to you, Ellie, or talk, you know what I mean? But literally, our objective is to help.
Right.
And this is a topic that, like you said, hasn't been spoken in important places. And we hope that y'all can share this, right? And really, if you appreciate what we're saying, Dr. Williams, some words of wisdom, Delano in his, and the little I had to say. But, another good episode of the Born to Achieve show. And next week, we're going to, we're planning something epic as it will be our 100th episode. So we're going to plan and really bring something and hope that we can make a difference in the lives of those of you that listen and many others. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve. We hope you found it informative, inspiring, and motivating. Born to Achieve. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Stay focused on your goals, and we'll see you on the next episode of Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve.